Welcome to Dynamic CIO Talk Show once again. That's where we strike great conversations with technology and business leaders. I'm your host, Rahul Neelmani, co-founder and editor of Greyhead Media. And with me, I have my co-host, Smriti Gandhi, Director Community Engagement and Executive Editor, Greyhead. We have been into a very prolonged era of uncertainty, a lot of chaos, some bit of despair, apprehension, but also a lot of hope that things will get better someday, sooner than later. Hope for a different, changed, and better world where we value time, we value relationships, life. Shall be back on the track of growth and innovation as soon as we can. The year 2020 had cast a long shadow on us. It still continues to surprise us even when we are almost halfway into 2021. Among many life-changing things, what COVID-19 also did was put digital transformation into a turbocharged mode. From a nice to have, it has now become a survival toolkit. Almost overnight, organizations were forced to adopt and modernize to meet the altered customer expectations and keep up the almost similar experience and better on it. Today, we are fortunate to have with us Mohit Kapoor, Group CTO, Mahindra and Mahindra, the Mahindra Group, one of the most promising Indian multinational conglomerates, having presence in over 100 countries and business interests across automobile, finance, technology, agriculture, hospitality, realty, defense, and many other key sectors. Mahindra Group has always been on the upward journey as far as the digital transformation is concerned. This has been aimed at not only to drive cost efficiency and performance, but also to keep up with the changing consumer expectations and also the changing business dynamics. Let's straight away dive into the conversation with Mohit without any further delay. Hello, Mohit. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm very fine. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Smriti, to have invited me. And I'm looking forward to our conversation today. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Great. A very cliched question to begin with. How's the mood in the boardroom? Is it very cautiously guarded, or is it still brimming with optimism and looks futuristic?
I think the mood in the boardroom is first taking stock of the employee welfare. At this time, especially the second wave, and Smriti and I were just talking about it earlier in this meeting. At this time, I think that is everybody's, first concern. So a lot about that are we doing all we can for our employees. Also, if you look at the purpose of the Mahindra Group, it's about rise, as we call it, which is around making an impact, a positive impact in the lives of the communities and stakeholders. And hence, we've gone beyond employees and look at our dealers and contract employees and whatever else it takes to get them across this troubled times. That being said, surely concerned about the business, because while some sectors may have shown some positive trends, other sectors remain to be, facing challenges. And since we have many sectors, sometimes it balances out, but in the end, it is tough times. And hopefully, beyond monsoons and in a couple of quarters, things will look better. Overall, I would think it's on the positive trend. If I use a trend, hoping that we are beyond the worst, and it's a positive trend, and that's true for business and employee welfare and our communities and our dealers, partners, and all the resources.
Great, sir. So also now coming to a questions, asking you've made quite a switch from finance to technology services to a diverse conglomerate. How is it going so far? Is it any different, or you think the best practices can be deployed anywhere, irrespective of whichever vertical?
I think the diversity of the business presents to me and the group a plethora of opportunity. And that's what attracted me to the role. So you're right, I've spent the last 15, 17 years in banking. And while many of the technology fundamentals around digital customer journeys or data analytics are applicable quite directly, but they have to be applied to the business. And hence, I need to understand the business first before I assume that this will work in a particular business because it worked in banking where I was earlier. So it's a unlearning, learning, acceleration of some things which are directly lift and shift, and reprioritizing some things which are need of the moment, which I would be doing the same thing even if I were still in a bank, whether it's around employee or even some bit of the cybersecurity and other trends we are seeing, right, which are need of the time. So there's some time-bound things and some industry-bound things and some universal technology lift and shift ideas, which I've taken off already. There's lots of opportunity. Very pleasantly, um, we at the group have been on a technology journey for a while. It's not that I've made a fresh start in any way in the last 6 months. It's been on for the last couple of years, and I've only accelerated some bit of the modernization, again because the pace is being set by the customer, right? So it's while we wanted to and we still want to, but the customer wants to even more than our customer needs, can only be met in this manner, and hence some of those have got accelerated. So I think to your question, yes, very interesting, you know, opportunity, and that's why I'm here, and you know, I'm sure it'll lead to an even better future for us at the group and for our stakeholders and communities really as a whole.
Uh, Mohit, you joined in the middle of pandemic and took over from an industry stalwart. You already said that there were a lot of initiatives taken in the past couple of years, and you only are accelerating them. Also, you said that it is a lot of it is led by customer expectations. Customer is in the middle of everything. So you have seen 6 to 8 months in this role. Uh, you know, how has the journey been so far, and what's been your core mission besides, of course, the welfare of employees, as you said?
Thank you, Rahul. So let me simplify the core mission so that it can be easy to understand for our audience as well. Um, so at the simplest, I think that's connected to the last question. At the simplest, the customer digital journey and the employee digital journey has transformed, and hence the service, the product, and the company has to offer it in the same way the customer or the employee wants to consume it. So that's first part of the mission, that how do we drive an outstanding experience for our customers and for our employees equally, for the last miles to be more digital because that's what normally are broken or were in a different way to be done. I mean, we were still a very office, branch, dealership, shop front oriented business. All four of those necessarily are not the only ways to acquire, retain, and engage, whether it's an employee or a customer. And hence, it'll be wrong to assume that whatever digital systems were already existing in the company are ready to, drive outstanding experience or cause delight, in the minds and hearts of customers and employees. So that's the first priority, that we've been in an accelerated journey of digitization or digitalization, which was already on way. I've only accelerated it, but keeping in mind the customer and the employee at the forefront of it, using design thinking or human-centered design to look at the right way to approach problems, and focusing a lot on UI, UX, and CX and EX. So that's one. Second, very hand in glove with that is the use of data and AI. That what do we know, which we already know, and how can we apply it better? And we're not just doing it because it's part of the manual or the process as it was earlier. And hence, and I keep saying in a very simple fashion, use of data and AI for all decisions, big or small, whether it's around what color the car should be, or at what rate should you offer this loan, or whether I should offer this loan to somebody or not. How can all those decisions be made backed by AI and machine learning and data analytics? So that's second. And to me, that's changing the culture and using a data driven culture in the company. So that's the second mission. Third is around modernizing the IT. That if I had the privilege of time, we would have gone through the cycles of evaluating what is our technology spend, how do we optimize it, how do we modernize our infrastructure, how do we transform the IT capability to drive innovation. Since we don't have the advantage of time, we're doing all these three things at the same time. That we're trying to optimize our IT infrastructure, whether it's around moving to the cloud, shutting down data centers or reducing our data centers, or driving more virtualization, or driving more open source. So that goes to optimization. Around modernization, how do we build a more open stack architecture? How do we use microservice architecture, etc.? And then obviously towards transformation, how do we use the power of the cloud, especially computer vision, machine vision, AI, which is available in the cloud pre-made. How do we use it to drive innovation? So that's kind of the third mission. The fourth is around cybersecurity. That as things get more digital, and they're already there, all transactions, large and small, will happen in online fashion or in the digital fashion. In such case, we have even a bigger responsibility towards our customers, our employees, our stakeholders, and ecosystem partners to safeguard data and also to be compliant to data privacy. And we're focusing a lot on that as our fourth pillar of this transformation. And last but not the least is the talent and culture. To me, working in agile manner closely with the business, where there is less demarcation between what is business, what is technology, you are working towards a common cause or a common need, is a change of culture. And lots of that is towards the talent and the culture priority, where how do we attract and retain top talent, or have a partnership with vendors and partners who carry such talent and have specialization in any of these four fields I spoke about. And then how do we have an agile culture where we can drive outcomes at a higher pace and very aligned to the customer requirements. So in a very simple fashion, that's a 5-point agenda, and I think it will remain to be a priority for 2 good years. I don't think it's a 1-year journey in any way, because even if COVID were to go down, it's not about COVID. I see many changes which have already happened in the customers way they interact with companies or consume products. Those changes are permanent, and while some part may go back to old ways, but many of those will remain. So I think this is the right moment for leveraging technology, AI, and data analytics in driving value, lifetime value for customers. And companies like ours, which are conglomerates and have a much wider offering for the customer, can do it very well, and we are very uniquely positioned to be offering customer real value. So I think that's what we are really planning to do.
So after listening to all your 5 priorities, where you're keeping your customer employee in the forefront, using of the IT infrastructure, the data analytics, it just, surprises me to ask you. We talk about Mahindra Group. We are talking about 150 group companies present in 100 countries, diverse to the core, as you said. How do you look for a single vision, for a digital first, innovation led with so many employees, so many customers, how do you look for a single vision for a digital first, innovation led enterprise? Isn't it a very daunting task?
And that's
I have,
why
I have lots of words.
yeah, it is a big task, hence it will not get done in a year. Also, there isn't a destination to get to. It's an infinite improvement. You only get better in doing it. And that's why I call it customer journeys, which is very aligned to the business. So there isn't, on the digital and digitization, there isn't a single method or a uniform way to do it. It has to be mapped out, and then apply design thinking on how, in making the journey using digital, how can you make it better for the customer. And few steps may still be physical in nature, because that's how it works, right? So if you order a car, the car still has to get delivered. It can't be virtually consumed. But if you're looking at finance, it can be virtually consumed. So I cannot say that everything should be virtual. You'll say, no, that's not valid. And that's true. So it is, so the first goal which we spoke about, that is very aligned to the business and the customer. And it has to be prioritized. We have over 20 segments of business. Maybe it's only the larger 4-5 segments we're currently prioritizing this year to transform. However, if you look at IT modernization, like leveraging cloud for driving DevOps, or using agile methodology, or if you look at data privacy, those are defined across the group. What it means to be risky behavior, or what it means to be a data compromise, is same for any company, any country. The lay of the land, or the law of the land, is an overlay. GDPR is an overlay. India IT Act, and soon to be data protection bill in India, is an overlay. But it's a binary. What is good, what is not good in data security and data privacy, it's pretty straightforward. So there's some things which are kind of universally applicable, may not have been adopted universally yet, but they are being evangelized in a more universal fashion. But there's some things where we have to work with the business, and data and digital, you have to work with the business and take journey by journey and prioritize what needs more transformation. And these are maybe industry leading changes. Buying a car virtually is not done by many companies, and should we do it? And I'm just making it up simpler to understand, not saying that that's what we are offering or planning to. But many of these things are physical. If you look at real estate, logistics, used cars, new cars, tractors, farming, leasing, many of these are, even holidays, Mahindra Holidays. In the end, these are physical businesses, and hence they cannot be consumed like banking completely. But I'm sure there are many things which. So I think, to your question, it has to be the customer first, and the customer connectivity is into the business and the business model, and all of that may walk at different paces, and that's absolutely fine.
It's been going excellent so far, Mohit. Last few questions, and I'm in awe of how you are explaining your mission. For example, the 5-point mission that you talked about, which was about bettering the UX UI employee experience, then making the organization very data driven, the culture very data driven, optimizing and modernizing the IT infrastructure, cybersecurity, talent and culture. This is quite a task, and as you said, it is not a finite journey. It has to be a long journey, and therefore we're looking for a horizon of 2 years. A slight improvisation in my question that I wanted to ask, that I would like to turn this discussion more towards certain new innovations which are based on customer demands. As you said, delivering a car virtually. And it may be possible. If I'm a second car buyer, I'm buying the car second time from Mahindra. I don't need to really go and do a test drive of a vehicle. I can just have a very superlative degree of virtual buying experience. So some anecdotal examples that you might like to give in some sectors.
I can give you an example from each sector, right, where technology is changing the customer journey almost permanently. And maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it couldn't be done. So even in the car buying, which you spoke about, we launched our iconic Mahindra Thar on 2nd October 2020, which is in the middle of COVID. And since then, 50,000 vehicles have been booked. Not all of them have been delivered yet, but they are in the making and they'll get delivered. And in many of them, test drives were taken, and then there were some iconic followers who did not even take a test drive, and they could just log on. And dealerships were closed, if you remember. Most of the states' dealerships were closed. But if you believed in the brand and the model, you would just go book it up, and they've got delivered. Many of them, the early booking, they've already got delivered, and the new ones are getting delivered now. So this change, I would think, paves the way for making the very dealer-centric approach of going and touching the car and looking and feeling it first in the dealership, then taking it out for a test drive around the dealership or near the dealership, and then booking it. This will change. Many of these things may change permanently, where you could virtually interact with the car online, and then if you still want a test drive, the test drive will come home. You don't need to go to the dealership. The test drive will come home, and then you drive around your home, not around the dealership. And if you like it, then you book it and pay up, and you get the vehicle. So that's a change. Very similarly, in our real estate, in November, we had been planning this project in Palghar, Happy Nest product in Palghar, where it was to be released, and we released it, and without any model house showing or a site visit, we were able to sell 60-70% of the inventory as well. And again, that shows the power of the brand, as well as the clever use of technology, which can make the journey simpler, so that you don't have to actually visit a model site, etc. Similarly, in Mahindra Finance, of course, many of our payments normally happen through the branches, where people would walk into the branch, or somebody from the branch would come home and collect a check, etc. And then obviously UPI is a good electronic way to pay, and that infrastructure in India works very well. All of you and I, we all use it all the time to make UPI payments, and hence 30% of our payments through the last 1 year have become digital, or 30% more actually, 30% more from how we were earlier, which again wouldn't have been planned while we've been pushing for more digital payments, but automatically I don't see they will fall back to old methods. So technology, to make cars safer, or for farmers, the yield of their farms better, or our real estate for the homes to be smarter, or for our finance to be more inclusive and be more available. These are all now enabled by technology, which a couple of years ago may not have been very easy to do. And lots of it takes us into the AI field, where we are still scratching the surface in many ways as a group, as well as the use of AI generally. And I think it's very promising, and I'm sure we'll do even better. But to your question, numerous examples come to my mind, which have made the customer journey, customer experience very simple in the last 12-14 months. And they have been all powered through use of technology. And these will remain forever. In my view, they're not going to change much.
So, last question before we wrap up. I know we are pressed for time. Moving forward, don't you think it'll be more crucial for the IT to work with businesses to ensure business resiliency, risk mitigation, and bettering the way the organizations work? How is it going to be for you?
I think it's a very, very good question, and that's reflected by the fact that I spend more time in business meetings than in IT meetings on a daily basis, or attending board meetings, where the awareness of digital for the business, the use of data for the business to either drive revenue or to improve the customer experience or even to decrease losses, the realization is there. And hence the priority of including IT in all major decisions has already happened automatically. So I don't necessarily have to create the need. We need to fulfill the requirement at a fast pace. And hence that's the balance. So the lines are blurring. So I think, Smriti, you bring up a good point. The lines between business and IT and business IT or IT business, whatever you call it, they're blurring. In the end, the IT people need to know some business, if not all of it, and the business people need to know some IT, if not all of it. Only then you can leverage it better, and hence automatically the partnership is there. The CIO does not necessarily become a cost center working with the CFO to save money. Well, money is always scarce and you have to do it. Now you do it through automation and digital, so that automatically the customer experience becomes so good that revenue goes up. So now there is a natural byproduct of driving efficiency. If you do digital very well, keeping the customer in mind, you can become efficient, but at the same time you also become effective. And effectiveness is when the customer finds joy in the product and the service, and business is able to figure out that IT is able to do it. And hence this will only get better and better, in my view, on the partnership. And that leads to a lot of new digital business models. It can lead to a digital product by itself, which can lead to newer revenues, and it surely leads to innovation. And because just IT innovation is no good unless you have a problem to solve. Oftentimes I tell my team that we have a great technology, but we're chasing a business now to looking for a problem to solve, right? So that's not a good way. That's old school technology. You have very, very good things in the lab and you want to look at a buyer, right? So I think it is the other way around, where IT and business are jointly trying to address a very, very hard problem to solve, and then you figure out what part of it can be solved using machine learning or AI or any other part of technology. There are many other promising products yet to be coming, like 5G and some other, which will change the innovation and the speed of innovation. So that's my thought.
Excellent. I mean, with the kind of ease that you have explained everything very systematically, flawlessly, I think it's going to be a great journey for you, and we are enriched a lot from your wisdom. Thank you very much for your time and effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, Smriti. Thanks for
Thank
inviting
you.
me.